joining us on Radio with Pictures, where we say, here are the women. Women who are dynamic, activists, making a difference in their community, yet unfortunately not represented in formal decision-making structures. Who are these women? Well, here are a couple of them. We have Sokoveti Lutumailangi. Sokoveti is FemLINK Pacific's correspondent based in Nandi. We have Shalini Lata. Shalini is from the Sheetal Sharda Mahela Mandal in Nosori and has been actively involved with us for a number of years, including appearing on the radio. We have Andi Makatalena, who is making strides in her leadership through the Nalemba Multiracial Women's Group in Lambasa. And last but not the least, Sainimili Naivalu, a representative of the Fiji Disabled People's Federation, as well as the Spinal Injuries Association as well. We're going to start in this episode once again by reflecting on Tropical Cyclone Winston, but also thinking about what are the lessons we have learned in our experiences with natural disasters. And Saya, I'd like to start with you, because too often when we think about disaster preparedness, it's in an able-bodied mindset. What do we need to understand when it comes to the diversities for persons with disabilities as well? How do we help you prepare?
Thank you, Sharon. What I had experienced is that the past cyclone that I had missed is 1993, which is that I was 8 years old. And that time, as a young person, being rushed out from school and coming back at home, thinking there is no devices like a wheelchair, traveling by roller skate, thinking that this is the end of it.
Sorry, you were on roller skates, you
Yes.
didn't have a wheelchair like you
Yes.
have today when you were 8?
Yes.
So there was no provision for children's
Yeah.
wheelchairs in those days?
Yes.
Okay.
And I really thank my mom that year when she's really trying to think about my health as living a person with disability as a born with it, where is going to start my, especially starting from there, where she's going to run to, since the hospitals are full, even the pharmacies, they are not paying attention of my medical stuff.
So when you talk about devices for someone like you, you're in a wheelchair, but there are other devices as well. What do you mean by devices? Because these are this is the medical equipment that
Yes.
you need.
For me personally, using a catheter and using colostomy bags, my medical staff has been sent from Australia. Since that cyclone has been stopped, so it was really hard for my mom to go out and find the same utensils that I'm using to stop, especially for my waist down. I couldn't feel anything because of the bleeding has started to, because of the cyclone, because I've been crawling, and children just come in and wanted my roller skate here and there when the cyclone, because it's always packed outside. So my mom has to rush to the pharmacy to go and get the medical things.
We heard from Sarah in an earlier episode from the Nangai community in Lambasa that they do have a community hall, an evacuation center, but she highlighted the rickety stairs, and that it's very hard for the elderly, let alone the disabled. So now, as you're an activist within the Fiji Disabled People's Federation, have we changed? Are evacuation centers disability friendly?
No, there is no change. I went to Nandi when I did a workshop about sports inclusion, and I saw the evacuation center, which is not that really accessible because the inconvenience was really small, and even though it has 5 steps, but there is no wheelchair ramp that wheelchairs can follow to
get
move
into the
in,
communities. Thanks, Sai. We'll talk some more. Auntie Ma, in terms of the experience in Nalemba, very quickly, what was the experience like? What have you learned in terms of preparedness?
Like 6, 7 months before that, the drought was in the north, and I moved to the community to talk together, to have a dialogue with other members, the women in the group, that there will be a hurricane. It's a sign, because it happens in all our grandfathers. We don't have a weather forecast like this, but it depends on what they see. Droughts, like fruits, it's
The
fruitful.
changes, like
The
we
change
heard,
has been happening
the
in the atmosphere.
Uto was growing a
It
lot.
means that a hurricane will be coming. That was what we have done. But from that, in December, we have planted what's called watermelon, because instead of planting a cassava on that time, that is a warning given to us. We planted watermelon, which is crawl, because it won't be damaged if a hurricane comes.
Okay, so I want to come across to Shalini and Sokoveti very quickly. Are we using traditional knowledge enough? Because we're now hearing more and more. In fact, we heard from Chochiana that her father-in-law said, too much breadfruit. There's going to be a cyclone. Are we hearing and are we watching the signs of nature?
I don't think so, because what I've seen, Sharon, even in all the traditional villages in Nandi, around Nandi, they are not aware of those kind of traditional signs that were the ones that we're talking about the food, about the fruits or whatever we see that will give signs that there'll be a cyclone.
Shalini, anything in those, sorry?
What I have heard from my grandfathers and grandmothers that when it's too hot and when we see plenty of ants crawling in the houses, then they say that it's the sign of hurricane. So they told us to be prepared. So we, when we hear the advice from our elders, then we start collecting our stuffs like food and tinned food, and we buy kerosene and we buy plenty of candles, so that when the hurricane strike, then we have stuffs with us.
So I'm going to come back to you, Andima, because you said you planted watermelon instead of cassava. How did that fare during Cyclone Winston? The crop's okay?
Yeah, for watermelon. It's heavy rain, but we just take out the small grains inside so that it can be have a good relaxing there, without having a cassava been matured on that time. Cut it, and it will be damaged.
Okay. So it's so important to learn from not only preparedness. It's not just about the information we receive from the weather office, but very much understanding and reading the signs of nature, particularly with changes in climate. And as you said, Andima, communities were dealing with an intense drought. And then we had a bit of tropical cyclone Ula, but then of course tropical cyclone Winston came about. How do you get the information outside to the community? Do you SMS? Quick answer before we go to a break. How do you organize through the FDPF?
SMS.
SMS. Okay, after a break, we're going to hear more about what we should be doing as a country as we move, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah? Okay? When we come back from the break, we'll be talking about our recommendations for the National Development Plan. Thanks for joining us on Radio with Pictures. I would like to start with this quote because we know that the National Development Plan will be finalized in line with Tropical Cyclone Winston, but possibly just as a reminder of what communities were experiencing. You said, Andi Makatelena, that we were recovering from a drought, but Srimati from Bandrao Klopkot Women's Group in Ba said, our Bandrao land is there. The rent was $100 before. Now it's increased to $160, but no job there or employment. How can we pay for that? It's too much. It should go down. Rent is going down, but it's going up. So that's the reality of people on the ground prior to Winston. The inability to pay for their land or not having jobs, and as you said, in farming, recovering just from the drought. So when we think about the next 5 years, what's your vision for Fiji?
Like more women should be participating in all divisional level, and more projects should be given, and so that it can solve the economic problem in all the women's, because a lot of young girls are in the community in the low level. They have not employed, and they can be employed.
One of the challenges a number of women have highlighted is access to land or land ownership. What do we need to do so that these young women in the communities know that they have a piece of land that they could garden or they could farm? How do we address that, Andima?
I think we should change the ownership of the land. So women should have the ownership of the land. And then I think it can be helped the more development to the community, to the high level, to the low level, especially the young girls, those are in the community.
So in 5 years' time, you'd like to see that?
The development, more development.
But because women have land?
Yeah.
Okay. Shalini, you know, with the mothers' clubs, the groups that you're part of, what are women saying, you know, when they think about Fiji in 5 years' time? Where should the priority be set?
The women of my women's group, they are thinking they want to nominate women. No, because in our village the advisory councillor is male, and we have noticed past years that when something happens in our community, like theft is going on or any disaster, the men, they always listen to men. They don't come and approach as women. So what we want, nobody bothers. What are the needs of a woman? Nobody bothers. So we are thinking to nominate a female to be a advisory councillor, so that she can come and visit us personally, and so that we can share our issues to her, and so that our voice can be heard.
Soko, listening to Shalini and also to Andima, whose support do we need, or what is the change we need to make sure that we have women who are appointed as advisory councillors, or that young women can be supported through land ownership to get involved in agriculture, to, you know, to benefit the country and and their communities?
I think we'll just have to refer to all the relevant ministries while we're talking and getting at the issues regarding agriculture and the participation of women. If we can involve more, like about 30 to 50% of women participating in decision making in all levels.
Is it an ask or is it a must?
It is a must.
It's a must. Okay.
It's a must.
Sai, for women with disabilities, you face double discrimination, gender-based discrimination, and of course the discrimination because of your disability. What would you see what would a disabled, inclusive national development policy look like? What does that need to do?
Thank you, Sharon. Well, my thinking is that everyone should have their voices out there, even though that we have different types of disability. Because I remembered my issue when my dad bought a land, $300, and then he asked my brother if he could build a house. And then when my dad passed away, and then I asked my brother, is it possible if I could take the land and to build our house, since we don't have parents there, as a recipient for social welfare. So he didn't agree with me. So I hope and I wish that that we could all work together as diversity, because I know that in the grassroots level, when I looked at it, everyone faces discrimination, especially me. So for that, working together with an organization, with NGOs, I know that we can put together a voice to lobby the government to change the plan of the land.
Does that also require some serious attitudinal changes as well?
Yes.
To say, I have the ability,
Yeah.
don't just look at my disability?
Yes, because I know there's a lot of people looking at the disability that we have. They don't look at the potential and the ability that a person has, because I know that we're the same.
Okay, thanks so much for sharing, Sai. Shalini, coming back to you, listening to what Sai has said, and also Soko, how can we make sure that as women's groups, as we're working, that we are not just looking at women like ourselves, but women of all diversities, whether it's the LGBT or persons with disabilities? How can we become more inclusive?
I think that we should involve them in our women's group, and in any occasions, any celebrations, we should invite them so that they come and they see and they witness what we women are doing, and don't let them sit at the back, and we should respect them, and we should save them first, and we should tell them that you are our sisters and we respect you.
So it's about being inclusive, yes? Would you agree, Sai? Would those things make a difference?
Not like, yes, let's be inclusiveness rather than serving us first and everything. Like what she shared, yes, I think we all should be part of it as one community.
Okay, after the break, we're going to find out just what women are doing as they make a difference in their communities. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us on Radio with Pictures. Here are the women making a difference in their communities. And in this segment, we're going to talk about just what women are doing to make a difference. And I'm going to start with you, Sai. I know there have been several projects in the last couple of years designed to support persons with disabilities, but also women with disabilities in income generating programs. What's worked and what could be scaled up?
Thank you. Right now, as an organization, we develop income generating to involve the women with disability to take part in selling their own goods. At this moment, we had a market done at the main market in Suva, which is that 5 of us, women with disability, and I'm the youngest. We create things that we can do in our own hands, like sewing, manicure, and some other stuff that 5 of us can commit in it. So what we really do is that we come down to the market, we sell them individually, and half of our income goes to the organization and comes in individually. And right now I'm doing manicure and manicure, and I'm doing study in university. I'm doing IT, which is tough, making no one is a competitive into that, and bringing my own my own my own product down to uni, which is that being supported by the Women and the Pacific Disability Forum.
Okay, so this is happening at the supermarket.
Yes.
Do you think there's potential to upscale it and you know, put it out through the rest of the Fiji Disabled People's Federation network, so that, is it happening in Lautoka? Is it happening in Ba or Nosori?
At our organization, we have an umbrella body, Fiji Disabled People's Federation. What we're really doing right now is that we are working with our own DPOs. As me, as a person,
What is a DPO?
Disabled People's Organization,
Right.
being their secretariat for Spinal Injury Association Fiji, I know we've been asking a lot of women to come and join us, to come and sell our product together. Just last year, Sharon, we had an opportunity to go down to the west to have a workshop about to develop a manicurist, which is the principal had been advised us if we can be part of their selling stuff in her shop.
Okay.
So it's like a two-way thing for especially in the west and in the central.
Okay, so it's a good model that could be replicated, yeah? And given that opportunity, you're obviously giving women with disability a chance to choose what line of work, or you know, that they want to produce. You're doing manicuring, other women might be doing other things, but it's a cooperative model, which is very interesting. Speaking of cooperatives, we have the Nalemba Multiracial Women's Cooperative, and you started a poultry farm. In fact, it was 2009-10 that you started the development. How's the poultry farm going?
It's moving. From 2010, we received a grant from the UNDP. That was 15,000, including everything, connect FEA to the shelter and the chicken and the feed. And we're moving on, and the chicken were dying day by day. We moved to the agriculture to find out what was the reason they're dying. And I can say today it was no response, a clear response from them. So sometimes when the chicken died, I operate it. I just want to check why this chicken are dying. And one day I went to the office again, to the agriculture. I asked one lady was on the table, and I asked her why this chicken are dying, and why. And she told me maybe, and I told her, if you are on the table, you don't have to answer me maybe. You must be sure of it.
So in the 6 years of running this program, I remember in 2011 when you set everything up. So you've been running this project for 5 years. You've learned a lot. I think you can give a lot of advice to the poultry industry as well. But it's been $15,000 that you all have managed. And these are women, some are cane cutters, some just do...
catching crabs, and some planting their backyard garden, selling. We started from collecting 20 cents when we met. That's the low income in our community. But we move on. When the time all the chicken were died, and we found out when the time you came, Sharon, and it was a problem from the feed. So from there, we went back to what's called like women's department for asking help to help us. And when we write a proposal, And it came back that we have used already 15,000 from the government. They could have helped us or to advise us because we were new to that project. So we keep on moving. The leftover money was with us in the bank. So we tried to buy some chicken again to move on.
And it's going well?
It's
You're
going on.
supplying eggs. How
We
many?
are supplying eggs, and it was going now $10 a tray. A day we have 3 or 4 trays a day. And the market is going well because the community, some from the town, they came and buy them, the eggs. But for the disaster was going on now, I don't know why it strike them. Might be they heart attack or what. It's decreasing.
The chickens
It's
are
decreasing.
traumatized. You
Yeah.
know, like I said, you could write a thesis yourself, Andima, on your relationship and your knowledge of chickens and what feed to give them, trauma counseling for chickens. But all jokes aside, from 20 cents,
20 cents.
from 20 cents to managing a $15,000 project to now knowing how you need to run a poultry farm, so you're selling eggs, a tray of eggs, $10. Shalini, is that inspiring as you hear what women are doing, and how are women organizing in your community?
The women in my community and of course in my women's group, they are very talented because one of them, like Anita, is doing mandap decorations and I am doing catering and I am also singing in the weddings. So as soon as, and of course our committee has a committee hall and every weekend there's a wedding there.
Okay.
So if there is a wedding, they come to me. If they come to me for asking me to doing catering, same time I ask if you have anybody for mandap decoration.
So you've got a little cooperative or collective of women organizing for different events, your singing talent, your cooking talent, the mandap
decoration and a
garland,
One of them are making
the
garland.
malas, all of that.
And so that's how I involve all my women's group together, and
Okay.
and they are earning money from that.
Fantastic and inspiring stories from all of you, and I know that the Namotamoto Women's Resource Centre has a lot of potential as well. That's where we wrap up this series of Radio with Pictures. We know that you have been inspired by just some of the women who you've met through this series, and we look forward to your support because we know that women can make a difference. First step, let's get 30%. Inaka.